We don't like to admit it, but the idea of losing control is one that fascinates controlled people such as ourselves more than almost anything. All truly civilized people, the ancients no less than us, have civilized themselves through the willful repression of the old animal self. Are we, in this room, really very different from the Greeks or the Romans? Obsessed with duty, piety, loyalty, sacrifice, all those things which are to modern tastes so chilling. And it's a temptation for any intelligent person, and especially for perfectionists such as the ancients and ourselves, to try to murder the primitive, emotive, appetitive self. But that is a mistake, because it is dangerous to ignore the existence of the irrational. The more cultivated a person is, the more intelligent, the more repressed, then the more he needs some method of channeling the primitive impulses he's worked so hard to subdue. Otherwise, those powerful old forces will mass and strengthen until they are violent enough to break free, more violent for the delay, often strong enough to sweep the will away entirely. For a warning of what happens in the absence of such a pressure valve, we have the example of the Romans, the emperors. Think, for example, of Tiberius, the ugly stepson, trying to live up to the command of his stepfather Augustus. Think of the tremendous, impossible strain he must have undergone, following in the footsteps of a savior, a god. The people hated him. No matter how hard he tried, he was never good enough, could never be rid of the hateful self. And finally the floodgates broke. He was swept away on his perversions, and he died, old and mad, lost in the pleasure gardens of Capri. Not even happy there, as one might hope, but miserable. Before he died, he wrote a letter home to the Senate. May all the gods and goddesses visit me with more utter destruction than I feel I am daily suffering. Think of those who came after him. Caligula, Nero. The Roman genius, and perhaps the Roman flaw, was an obsession with order. One sees it in their architecture, their literature, their laws, this fierce denial of darkness, unreason, chaos. Easy to see why the Romans, usually so tolerant of foreign religions, persecuted the Christians mercilessly. How absurd to think a common criminal had risen from the dead. How appalling that his followers celebrated him by drinking his blood. The illogic of it frightened them. They did everything they could to crush it. In fact, I think the reason they took such drastic steps was because they were not only frightened, but also terribly attracted to it. Pragmatists are often strangely superstitious. For all their logic, who lived in more abject terror of the supernatural than the Romans? The Greeks were different. They had a passion for order and symmetry, much like the Romans, but they knew how foolish it was to deny the unseen world. The old gods. Whatever we call beautiful, we quiver before it. Beauty is terror. And what could be more terrifying and beautiful to souls like the Greeks or our own than to lose control completely? To throw off the chains of being for an instant, to shatter the accident of our mortal selves. Euripides speaks of the Maenads, head thrown back, thrown to the stars, more like deer than human being. To be absolutely free. One is quite capable, of course, of working out these destructive passions in more vulgar and less efficient ways. But how glorious to release them in a single burst. To sing, to scream, to dance barefoot in the woods in the dead of night, with no more awareness of mortality than an animal. These powerful mysteries, springs of honey bubbling from the ground. If we are strong enough in our souls, we can rip away the veil and look that naked, terrible beauty right in the face. Let God consume us, devour us, unstring our bones, and spit us out reborn.